Hi everyone, this is the Recreate Reality Podcast with Michael and Teresa. Today, we are talking Survivor Australia, Brains vs Brawn number 2. We are recapping the entire week from episodes 1 to 3, so for anyone who hasn't watched the show, there are massive spoilers ahead. In today's episode, Nash gets a rash, Kent gets banned, Indy gets flinty, and Zen gets sent. And if you've missed the episodes, you can catch all the action on your local streaming services. Survivor Australia, Brains vs Brawn II, episodes 1 to 3, breakdown coming up.
Very nice. Nice your Teresa.
Thank you.
Like a rap. Sounded like one of Zen's raps. It was very perspicacious and stoic.
Yeah.
And very sublime.
And I definitely got a lot of business acumen on that.
Well, we're back, so we're going to try and do our best to follow Survivor AU. Survivor AU is back. It is our primo favourite show.
Yeah, we're very, very excited. I'm actually very excited. And also, this is like a familiar theme too. So it's actually Brains versus Brawns. We've seen the first season of that, I think 4 years ago during COVID. Now, this is the second version. It's a very, very popular theme. And I'm very excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, and we're going to try our best to cover it, but work has been busy for both of us. We do both work. This isn't our job yet. And we all are also covering traders. So we just wanted to say we're going to do our best to cover this as promptly as we can, but things might come out a little bit later than you'd like. So apologies in advance. We're doing the best we can with the time we have. And try to still make it fun and not feel like pressure. But we'll try and get these episodes out at least a couple of days, at the most a couple of days after each ep. But no promises. If they are late, we apologise. Just want to get that out of the way. But Survivor AU, we're back.
I think for anyone who loves Survivor, Australia season probably has got to be the one that's the most highly anticipated in the world.
Yeah, and it's because it's the pure Survivor. It's the hardcore Survivor. It's full body contact, ground rules. It's like MMA versus boxing. It is the one that still feels like the essential old school Survivor. You know, a long time on an island, 40-something days.
Yeah, it's old school. You know, they have like themes. So with this year, it's Brains versus Brawns. Like in the past, we've had Blood versus Water.
Blood versus Water, Champions Challenges. But Brawn v Brain, if you guys don't know, was the one that started it all for the resurgence of Survivor in Australia. So during the pandemic, we had Brawn v Brain 1.
And that was actually cast, I think, in the Australian outback because due to travel restrictions.
Yeah.
And I think that really kind of got the world's attention.
Yeah. Everyone was at home at the time. And obviously it made massive stars out of George Medvedev and Hayley.
Yeah, who's the champion.
Emmett, Simon, just household names out of all these amazing characters. And it brought the world's sort of attention, American attention to Survivor, Australian Survivor.
I think so. I still remember one of the most iconic moments in the show, besides like George and Hayley, was actually Simon. I think he was the first person to go home, to get voted out with 2 immunity idols. Yeah. so that was actually, I think, like something that was quite interesting to watch.
Yeah, how good Emmett was at the challenges.
Yeah,
anyway,
he was really good.
But so a really memorable season, and so obviously Channel 10 has tried to replicate the success of that, and we're back. So what do we like about Australian Survivor? Let's just quickly chat about why we like Australian Survivor.
Yeah, so I think first of all, I think it's in the old school play that they do. So we've just actually covered US Survivor, and I think as you've probably heard us, probably one of the things that I didn't like very much about US Survivor was that there was a lot of advantages, gimmicks, journeys that I felt interrupted the story of the game.
Yeah, true. I agree. And then there's also just 2 big tribes, so that relationship and social capital really is key, how you form those relationships. It isn't necessarily about stumbling across an advantage or finding a hidden advantage. It really is, how well can you band these people together like life? How well can you form relationships, create alliances? And that's the fascinating social aspect of it that still retains its purity.
And I feel like in big groups, because like Australian Survivor, you've only got 2 tribes. So
Yeah.
each group is like really big. There's like 12 people, whereas in US Survivor, you've got 3 groups, 3
tribes,
tribes. I think each tribe was really small, like 6 people.
Yeah.
You barely get a chance to like know each other, know
Exactly.
where you fit in. Someone's like bound to go home. It's like 1 in 6. I think the chances, it just feels a lot riskier.
Yeah. This one feels like if you're a good player, you're more likely to stick around. Also, there's the Survivor aspect. This feels like Survivor. They are out there for twice as long almost. There's a real sense of hardship and duress and strain on these people. They really lose weight from the minute they hit the beach. There aren't food rewards every second day. It feels like they have to survive.
Yeah, I think so.
They really are stranded.
I think so. We've done so there's been 3 episodes out already, and that took place over like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
So each episode kind of like spans 2 days. So you really kind of get a sense of them wearing down, getting hungry, getting cranky, getting angry at each other, and then that's when the drama comes out.
And the other thing I want to just quickly touch on, and this might be controversial or people might disagree, and feel free to leave a comment if you disagree, but I think the American Survivor has leaned into very much this diversity casting of having people from, diverse backgrounds, and it leans so hard into it that trying to find people that are all diverse and somewhat, shall we say, progressive in their views, that they end up being less diverse ultimately. They all tend to be from a similar demographic, professional, urban, highly paid, college educated, minority background, typically representing a pronoun, and so they're not as diverse as we would like. They are diverse in the modern sense of the sociological word of it, the woke word of it, but the Australian Survivor has people, it seems, from all walks of life.
From country, from city, they're all different sizes. I guess in this case,
Different
because it is
sizes.
like, brains versus brawns, you do get like probably like smaller people versus bigger people,
Yeah.
as we've seen.
But the American Survivor, everyone seemed like a certain body type and
Yeah.
archetype. Here we're seeing a real stretch of people. Even among the brawns, there's a wide variety of people. Amongst the brains,
to be honest, I think I was a little bit surprised. Okay, so who has kind of like stood out, and what have you thought about the casting? Because for me, when it came to Brawn, I think there was a big variety from like a model to someone who's like much bigger, like say Nash, who, to be honest, I actually maybe wasn't sure why he was in Brawn, or maybe I'm getting it mixed up with like champions.
No, I don't think you are.
Yeah.
I think, okay, for me, Brawn, the archetype, represents somebody who relies on their physical nature to move through the world.
Or at least it's like your profession.
Yeah, at least it's your profession, or you identify as being more physical than intellectual, and that's not a bad thing. But I look at the Brawn tribe and I see like Paulie, Nash, Kate, Candy, it doesn't really classify to me as being brawny, especially not Nash, he's a salesman. And then looking at the brains, people like Logan, who's a wag.
Why is she in brains? I mean, say Kalen, yes, because I think he's like a scientist. He's building a drone. Myles, he's a financial analyst. So I do get that, like why they're in brain. But I kind of feel like the lines have been a little bit blurred in terms of casting. It's not kind of like very decisive.
No.
Who they are.
No.
Yeah.
I think what they did is they came up with this concept, Brain v Brawn. Let's do it again. It's a great marketing tag.
Yeah.
We can reuse something this brand that we've used before.
Yeah.
But then they just cast people based on who was the most, appealing for the show.
Yeah, I think so.
And then they just lumped them into whatever tribe they could. And didn't necessarily cast along brains versus brawn tribes.
Yeah.
They just cast people, Logan's interesting. Max, okay, no disrespect to Max, he's a 3rd grade primary school teacher. I don't think that necessarily qualifies him as brains. It's not like he's
a professor
researching cancer.
Or,
No, he's teaching, color charts and times tables. I'm sorry, Max, I'm sure you're super smart, But when you think of brains, you're thinking of Nobel Prize winners.
Yeah,
you know
I think so. I think so. PhDs,
PhDs, major intellects of the world.
Yeah. And as we've seen, like, in the previous season of, like, Brain versus Brawn, like, say, Hayley, the champion, I think she is, like, a researcher in terms of, like, tolerance of pain. And that's why she was actually able to put her kind of, like, research and expertise to good use to win the challenges when it came to, like, really enduring.
Yeah. And we saw a real contrast in that season and really a battle of philosophies. Like, the Brain people really didn't like the Brawn people from a fundamental identity standpoint. It was like, you guys are nerds, you guys and you guys are brutes and da-da-da. It was really that line drawn. I don't think these people necessarily, I don't feel that line dividing them. And so I think when we get to merge, it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think it'll be like nerds versus jocks.
No.
Which is basically the idea, right?
Yeah,
nerds v jocks.
Yeah. So I think in this case, I do agree with you. I do feel like the casting, maybe it could have been a lot tighter and more selective.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway.
So that's it. Okay, so for me, like
who sticks out?
Who stuck out? Okay, so when we got to the intro, I think Noonan stuck out for me. I think firstly because she introduced herself as Noonan, and then she also says, like, in her family, like, the boys, she's got 3 big brothers. They are kind of like known as being the Noonans, and I'm like, but who's a Noonan? Yeah. What's a Noonan? Is that like a
Noonan?
Is that like an Australian thing?
Who's a Noonan? Why is a Noonan?
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm the only one that the Noonan people don't know of the Noonans. And I was like, well, don't worry, no one knows who any of the Noonans are. I think she grew up on something like the Mornington Peninsula up north.
Yeah.
And so maybe around her neck of the woods, big fish, small pond. But never heard of you.
I mean, maybe you guys have heard of her. I mean, tell me.
No, you have to like really Google to find her. I don't think she's a household name.
Okay.
The show implies. The show makes it look like she's a Kardashian or something, like, oh wow, who's this girl trying to break out from her family name? No, maybe she is. I don't know. But she's a football player. Who else stood out for you?
I think there was a Zen. Zen's a very interesting character.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a hip hop artist. And he apparently, I think he learns 2 new words a day.
Because he's not going to learn any new words on the island, but he will have push-ups.
And pull-ups, yeah.
He reminds me of this sports commentator called Stephen A. Smith, who learns 2 words every day like that. He has that same app or Rolodeck. Every morning they look at 2 words and they try and use it that day. And he'll just use the most odd words that day in his broadcast, even if they're inappropriate and out of context. Zen's a bit like that, but he looks very sweet and nice. He'll be entertaining, I think. Okay, who stood out for me? Kent, who looks like a complete psychopath.
Which, as we find out, he kind of like
later.
turns into a little bit of a sociopath actually along the 3 episodes.
And Myles seems like an interesting cat. He's
I think so.
Obviously a nerd, but he also does stripping or pole dancing.
Yeah, he does pole dancing. I know. So he's a financial analyst that does. He's also pole dancer. So it's a very interesting, like duality there.
Yeah, very odd bird. Okay, so then we open up with a challenge, as we always do, right? On the island, and well, the Brain Tribe wins an advantage where they get all some camp life stuff.
Yes, I think so. And I think probably the most interesting thing in that episode, we're not going to go through all of it chronologically, so let's just pick on the, the main points. I think probably for me, the main point was 5 minutes into
Nash,
5 minutes into camp life, Nash actually finds an immunity idol.
Yeah, so what did we think of this move? I mean, the interesting thing is that he walks around Tribe parading it.
Yeah.
Straight away. What do we think of this move?
It was funny too, because he found it. He straight away shared it with Zen, who I think he's probably just met and just known for like 5 minutes. And then he brazenly goes to camp, walks around, with it on his chest, but no one's actually noticing him for like the first 5 minutes.
He comes across like a little kid trying to get attention with a new toy, but no one really cares.
Yeah.
His mannerisms are actually really childish too, and sweet, maybe because he's kind of pudgy and stocky, but Oh, I felt sorry for him in this.
I did.
I don't think it's a great play. What do you think of it as a play, though?
No, to be honest, I found it very bizarre. Like, I mean, it's like the whole point of an immunity idol is that you keep it hidden, and you pull it out when you need to play it. Like, why show it now? Because then it just showcases the power disparity between you and everyone else. And what everyone else is going to do is to want to flush it. So really, it's just... And as we've seen, like, in that first episode, when it came time to tribal... he had to use it. Issue, It was a big issue.
He should have just told maybe Zen. Because it's good to use as a trust building tool. I think so. And then just use it amongst a small group in your alliance and use it to build trust in that way. And like, look guys, we can use this. This makes us powerful. And then try to draw people in to work with you that way. Instead, I think he forgot the whole point of the show, which is to outsmart people. And that, they're trying to get you while you're trying to get them. It's not... I think he thought he could use it like a shiny toy, and to make himself popular,
and to get new friends.
Yeah, and guys, people will come to me now that I have this. It makes me popular and cool, but no, it makes you a target.
I know.
It makes you an outcast.
It very much feels like like the playground all over again.
I know. I don't know what he's doing on the Brawn tribe as well.
Yeah,
like I think he kind of sticks out a little bit because of his age. He's not brawny. He's not physical. He's not athletic. He's just fat.
Yeah.
So I don't know when brawn meant fat, but anyway, not so to be mean, Nash, but yeah, it's just. I think he's gonna stick out a little bit.
I think he's probably gonna stick out, and also the way that he's been talking to people. Okay, so he's got the immunity idol, and he's basically just telling people what to do.
Yeah.
No one is going to like that. You are going to put such a huge target on your back.
Exactly. Not building up social capital. This is the part of the game that differs from American Survivor. Maybe in American Survivor you have an advantage, you have strength and so on, and it's all about accumulating things. Here in Australian Survivor, it's it's the relationships game.
Yeah.
And so when you play too hard too early, people and you don't focus on relationships, it really comes at a detriment. And I feel like the first 2 days we see it with Myles, and the example with him, with Kent, Indy, all this first week, it's all about building social relationships first and not playing too hard too early. Otherwise, the game comes back on you.
Yeah,
and you get shot. Especially with Australians. I feel like culturally in Australia, we have this tall poppy syndrome, and you can't try too hard.
No. It's actually frowned upon.
It's frowned upon.
I think in America, it's probably admired.
It is,
and it's like, oh, you go get them,
to be entrepreneurial, ambitious.
Yeah.
Someone once told me in Australia at work, the quickest way to end your dreams is to share them with people. And he was kind of right. You know what I mean? And it's like, you don't want to appear like you're trying too hard with Australian culture.
Yeah, I think in Australia, there's something to it about like being more laid back, more chilled, more relaxed.
Like, oh, this success just came to me, and not talking about...
Yeah, not bragging about it. Yeah. Well, definitely, like, I think wearing the idol on your neck at the first go, like, 10 minutes into the game is definitely a huge brag. And it backfired so badly on him.
Backfired badly.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that ends up. Obviously, he stays in the game.
He does stay in the game. Well, what did you think
but
about
by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah. Well, what did you think about him choosing Candy? So we're going to...
I think, for some... I don't know why Candy was chosen and isolated instead of him. Obviously, they needed to split the vote in case he played his idol, which they did. I think he just honestly picked out the person he didn't talk to yet. He hadn't spoken to. So he picked out someone he had no contact with, who happened to be the smallest, a female.
They're kind of extremes, actually.
Yeah, and so he just picked the non-Nash person, which is a shame because we didn't get to see anything of her.
We didn't get to see anything of her.
She must be burning, being a model and an Instagram.
I know, and being the first one voted out as well.
I didn't even get to show anything.
I know. Because she probably because I was thinking, oh, maybe she's kind of like the new Shani. We've got Shani who's very good, social, butterfly on Survivor. But unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to see any moves.
No.
Yeah, that's a shame. Okay, so moving on. What do you think about...
we went to Kent first. Wasn't there talk about a female alliance in episode 1 as well?
Yeah, So there is an all-female alliance, I think, in the
Coven,
Brains
in the Brains
tribe.
tribe, yeah.
Yes.
So we see Karen, Laura, Ali, Logan. I don't know if Zara's part of it.
Yeah, Zara. They all are.
They all are. So
Well,
all
actually,
6
to be
women.
honest, all of them are part of it. But Indy was kind of brought in at the last minute.
Right.
Because she had gone over to the girls and be like, oh, hey, I noticed you guys have been chatting. I would like to be included in your chats.
Yeah. That's in episode 2. So, yeah. And so, like, we see this formation of an all-female alliance. What do we think about these all-female alliances?
To be honest, I think I don't know. I'm not keen on an all-girl alliance. And I think it's just because I feel like it's quite limiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, firstly, an all-girl, like, there's, 6 girls in the tribe, out of 12 people. It's going to be very hard to get a consensus among 6 people. Like, every person is going to want to do different things.
Yeah.
And I don't actually think, like, why does it need to be always, like, women versus men?
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, just call the tribes men v women, because...
Yeah, why not do that?
I think it really limits the individual gameplay. It protects the women who are obviously afraid maybe of being singled out for not being as good in the challenges or whatever, discriminated. But obviously they've bonded together because I think as a reaction to Rich and Kaylin and Max broing out. But I find these alliances very tenuous and they don't last very long, I don't think.
No, they don't. To be honest, I think maybe the only one that has actually really lasted was the Black Widow Alliance in US. But even
It's
in
tough.
the previous alliances, like where it's been like women versus men, like it kind of maybe lasts for like, 1 or 2 episodes. But then after that, things always crumble. I don't feel it's a durable alliance.
To just choose people to work with based on their gender and not like because of endgame and a real shared interest.
Yeah, common interest. I feel like that's actually more important.
It can't last. It's not built to last. But it does seem to be going so, well so far. So far, so good. But yeah, I'm skeptical. And we see what happens when Indy interjects the group later in episode 2.
It's interesting because I think Indy maybe felt like she was a little bit of an outlier. And so she wanted to be a part of the coven. So she had a chat with them. They told her that they had wanted Rich out of the game. But then she goes to like Rich and Max and then tells them what happens and then starts to threaten them.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm all over the place with my notes. That's in episode 2.
Yeah, it is, yes.
So, shall we just finish talking about episode 1 first and then we'll get to that?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, because my notes are chronological. So what I've got is just here also a few things that we might talk about in episode 1 before we round it out and throw an underline underneath it. Because, firstly, Kent burns the hat of Max.
Yeah.
What do we think of this move?
Very uncalled for, very, very early into the game with absolutely no provocation from... Well, he's actually... Okay, so it's not because he's targeting Max, it's because he's targeting Myles.
Right.
Yeah, and it's interesting that... Like, I don't see why he is targeting Myles. I mean, Kent, as he said, he's already a multimillionaire. Myles is just a financial analyst. Like, why pick on, the guy who's, like, the weakest in the tribe?
Yeah, I don't understand why he's done this. I saw some interviews that he felt that Max and Myles were gunning for him and that he felt tired, he had a sore back, he felt alienated in the tribe, and he just had it out. He just had a bad vibe against Myles. He missed his wife and so on. But this is a real bully move. We've seen in other seasons of the show, like, things being burned with Simon and George and so on. But to do it so early on was a bit nasty, I think. And,
I think so. Yeah, it didn't feel very nice. Yeah.
It didn't feel very nice, especially when people come onto this show, they've got their clothes, it's their only possessions, really. They haven't got much to cling on to. You've got a few shirts, a hat, a rag, and a buff, and that's it, and you're burning it early on. A bit nasty, I think, and it didn't really endear him to people.
No. I think it was uncalled for. Maybe later in the game, when you actually do have beef with someone. But like right now, I just feel he's the oldest guy there. He's picking on the youngest person there, which is Myles. I mean, it's kind of like, the bully just picking on,
the weakest, skinniest kid in the
like,
playground.
there really isn't any need, I think.
And for him to isolate Myles and say, I'm going to go for the weakest kid, really makes him look bad too.
Yeah, just like an all-out bully.
Yeah, because if he had said, look, we need to make our tribe stronger, and that's why I want to get rid of Myles or so on, people might have rode with that. But the way he presented it was like, I just can't stand him. He has no IQ, no EQ, no whatever Q,
it's funny that everything he says about Myles can actually be applied to him.
Yeah, exactly. He actually shows a lack of self-awareness here, but...
And how about the fact that he always keeps saying, I'm a Komodo dragon, I'm a praying mantis that's just going to, inflict you with some poison and just slowly, let you bleed out.
Yeah, he associates with some nasty predatory animals, which is interesting. The funny thing is that he said in an interview with on Rap this week that I saw, the reason why he did it wasn't for strategy or anything like that. It was more meta than that, actually. He said that he wanted to make himself the main character. He felt like, everyone was talking on the tribe. There was a lot of attention going here and there. He felt like he wanted the cameras and the attention on himself and Max.
Okay. So it was like a show performance.
It was more performative,
right.
And so he said that he wanted to put the cameras on him a little bit, have people talking about him, be a main character, which...
Well, yeah, it worked because,
main characters
he became
die.
a target, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want to be the hero or the villain this early on.
Yeah, and also I think the move about burning the hat, okay, that's okay, so you've planted suspicion on Myles, but then on Tribal, he then tells everyone that he did that, which is another bizarre move. So, I don't know, all in all, I felt like these first 3 episodes, there's actually been quite a few bizarre moves happen that
it's really weird.
Hasn't happened before.
Yeah, and I'm sorry we're going back and forth and around and we're going to get confused and we're going to confuse each other because we're sort of wrapping up 3 episodes at once. So I apologise to the viewers. But yeah, we're going ahead to episode 3 now and 2, and he admits that he throws the hat in to the fire in front of Max rather than withholding it, which seemed just bizarre. I don't see the incentive, the motivation, or the benefit of doing this.
Yeah, because I think that was just the strangest move. I get it why you want to do it. Okay, I mean, no,
but
I don't get it why.
Anything.
Yeah, but don't say it. Just keep it quiet because that's not going to endear you to the rest of the tribe.
Now everybody hated him, and then obviously we saw the consequences of that, which we'll get to.
I know, and I think maybe what he did wasn't very nice, but the truth was he also has been trying to get onto Survivor for the last 10 times. He's been rejected. He cried about it. And he was saying how, it's so easy for some of the other contestants. They just applied once and they got in. He had to apply 10 times. It's the one thing he cannot buy. And so for his, I guess, dream to just end so quickly when he actually could have gotten quite far.
Yeah, I think judging from his bio, he's a very successful, wealthy person. He's a guy who's used to having his way. People like that don't necessarily have to accommodate or acclimatize socially. They can bully their way through life like a Donald Trump type character.
So
they don't need to compromise.
They haven't learned to be agreeable.
They've never had to, learn to be agreeable. And I think this week that's been a theme. Kent and Indy, they show no regrets, no mistakes, no apologies. 100% they do it again 100 times.
I know.
So that's interesting. But yeah, just finish off on Kent then. So then we get to the vote and Candy goes home. Nash, so returning back to Trouble 1. Let's just finish Trouble 1. Candy goes home. Nash plays his idol and... Oh, we didn't talk about the challenge and Nash fluffing up in episode 1 challenge.
Yeah. Okay, so I think with Nash...
You're all over the place today. We're sorry, people.
Yeah, so I think with Nash, what I did find was also strange about him was that there was a challenge, there was a puzzle, he had put himself up and be like, okay, I'm actually good at challenges.
Yeah.
And then, but when he actually came to doing the puzzle, he wasn't very good at all.
He was trash. He was in the way. He was bad. He wasn't good. Oh, this is going to be a tough spot for him. But we get to Tribal and he plays his idol and Candy goes home. episode 1 in the bag. Sorry, Candy. Sad to see you go. And we get to episode 2. And yeah, as you were saying, we open with the crying Ken. How he talks about IQ, EQ, and all this. And there was a funny shot where he's talking about the praying mantis, and there's a shot with him standing behind AJ and Myles, and there's a praying mantis being superimposed.
Yeah,
and he's
there
like,
is, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I just like to sit back and watch. This guy's a psychopath. He's so strange. Indy.
Okay, so with Indy...
So, Indy has a weird approach here about joining the female alliance. So we mentioned before how she just walks up to the girls and says, "Hey girls, I've been watching yous. I want to be included." And she basically just bombards her way into this social situation like a party.
Yeah.
Very awkwardly, very strangely, and says, "I want to be included." What did you think of this?
I don't think it's a way that you get yourself included into the group. I mean, she has to do what she has to do, but like I think with girls, it's a very tenuous relationship. You know, you can go with that, but then pretty much you need to expect yourself to just be a number for the first couple of,
And that's okay.
I think, votes. But it didn't seem like that's what she wanted. She wanted to be included in a group and also to have a voice. That's going to be hard if you're not the queen bee.
Yeah, and that's okay though, because she has not played much social acclaim. She hasn't socially blended that well, it seems. She seems like she's a little bit on the outside.
Yeah.
We see shots of her just frolicking in the water. We don't see her really connecting with anyone.
Yeah.
And then she just walks up to these girls like a kid on the first day of school and says, "Hey, I want to join your crew."
Yeah.
And to my surprise, they were very gracious and kind and receptive and accepted her. And they were like, "Great, this is the 6th member of our coven." But then she has some double thoughts about that, second thoughts, and betrays it almost immediately, going to the well.
Yeah, she does. Yeah,
Which I was very surprised at, because this ensured her safety. It really did. But it seemed like she didn't want to be a number for numbers' sake. She doesn't like to be dictated to. She likes to lead her own charge. But sometimes you just got to play along. Especially when you haven't built the social capital to really stand against the numbers.
Yeah.
She hasn't built that social capital yet. So for her to do this move where she then goes to Rich and Max and says, you know, the girls are gunning for you, you're in trouble. What did you think of that?
I think it definitely speaks as to that she hasn't had the social capital, because most of the time when someone tells you that someone's gunning for you, you want to work with the messenger. But in this case, I think like Rich was just so kind of put out by her threats that he was just like, well, I think I can't work with that. Let's just gun for her instead.
Yeah, he didn't even believe her, even though she told him the truth. And she literally, and I think maybe he believed that they were gunning for her just because it came across so badly that he actually was able to turn it against her. And so she threatened him. She goes,
I know.
I'm black. We do puri puri, which I looked up is basically black magic. So she threatened him to put a hex on his family.
Yeah, which I think is never a good thing.
A good look.
I know.
Oh, girl.
So like it's almost like an offer of help kind of like backfires and turns it into like something that's like against her.
Yeah, it was so bad. Because I think they really wanted to work with her, but she just couldn't sit still and be settled with it. She had to stir between them, and ultimately it backfired. I don't think she considered the numbers and where the weight of the tribe really was.
Yeah.
I don't know what her play was, because even if Rich had believed her, and they all voted together, say the guys, to get out one of the girls, where does that leave her after that? It leaves her at the bottom of an alliance with guys. And then all the girls hating her. I just don't know what the play was here.
Yeah, I don't think she did that very well.
Yeah. Okay, so... Yeah, and then Rich comes in awkwardly and puts his head behind the girls. It's like, hey, what are you guys talking about? It was so strange. Alright, we get to the challenge and they get to choose between... So Brain Tribe wins and they get to choose between a fish and a fishing rod.
Yeah.
What do you choose?
I guess the smarter move will probably be to choose the fishing rod. Although, you know, when you're hungry, the fish... I love fish. Like, you know, like I think, you know, like... Yeah, it'll be very hard to turn down fish when you're very, very hungry. Like, it's good now. Like, you know, I'm fed. I'm not hungry, you know. But when you're really hungry, oh my God.
Give a man a fish, eat for a day. Give him a fishing rod, eat for a lifetime, I guess.
Yeah. And also, to be honest, I actually... Come to think of it, I always thought, oh, maybe it's a good idea to choose the fishing rod. But actually, when are you ever going to get a big piece of fish like that can actually feed people? Like, it can last like maybe, 2 days? And then maybe, hopefully, if you win a reward, you will get fed again.
Yeah.
You know, it's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, and also, given the challenges and the rewards, they do get fed pretty regularly. Although it's, you know, binge eating and fasting.
Yeah,
a cycle of that.
Yeah.
You will get food on this island if...
Yeah.
And besides, you know, fasting is a good way to lose weight anyway, so... But yeah, they go with the rod, they get a bit of fish, which seems okay. And we see the tribe really getting pissed off at Rich. He's a lot, you know what I mean? He's one of those personalities, I think, so he's going to get featured a lot. We see him raving and having basically a beach party, and the girls, a lot of rolling eyes at him. He seems to be on the block. And, we get to Kaylin telling Myles that he's in danger still, and that people are still coming for him.
I have to say, I think Kaylin is kind of like coming up to be one of my more favourite people on Survivor. Because we haven't actually seen a lot from other people, but he's kind of like shaping up, and he seems nice. Like, you know, I actually think that he can actually go very far in the game.
I think the way he presented this, we'll talk about it on both sides, but I think the way he presented this to Myles was very deft. He didn't give up any names and say, look, so-and-so is gunning for you, because that would have risked him his own social gain.
Yeah.
He just said, look, some people think you're doing a bit too much. Be careful. There's a bit of a consensus around that. That's the talk around camp. That was very skillfully delivered. And to Myles's credit, he took it on the chin and took it well. He didn't get defensive or reactive, as many people would have.
Yeah,
like,
I
it's
think
upsetting to hear someone say you're doing too much.
Yeah.
He took it really well. It was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to play it chill.
Yeah.
And so his receptiveness to that was very, very good. A positive thing. He took it very well. So that's not always easy to do. So... And from the rest of the time, we see him just chilling. I think he's firmly at the bottom of the tribe. I don't think it's easy to rise up through all these bros and so on. They have a firm relationship, and obviously the girls are a firm block. But he saved himself by not making himself too offensive.
I think so. Like, you know, I think, to be honest, he actually recovered very well, considering where he's at.
And so then we get to tribal, and basically there's a big brouhaha between the girls. Kent reveals that he burns the hat. There's a lot of airing issues out this year. Yeah,
I did feel like in the past we've kind of become used to people talking in code, being very subtle. You know, not actually really going very specific into what's happening at camp, you know, but just talking like, oh, you know, it could be seen this way or it could be that way, you know, but, you know, it's a very vague kind of like descriptions.
Not this time. Now, they are full on out saying everything.
Yeah, it's like a massive therapy group session.
They are literally, what I've noticed in episode 1 and episode 2 is that players are just saying what is on their mind and what bothers them, and directly to their targets.
Yeah.
Which is a very refreshing and strange change. I wonder if they were coached this way. I wonder if it's the players. But it does nothing to mask your intentions if your aim is to blindside someone. Yeah. Because here, they just come at India directly. They just air every issue. You see Indy and Zara, Indy and Kara just going at it. Like, quite confrontational and quite direct and open. Like, we gave you a chance. We gave you the world on a platter, and you betrayed us.
Yeah.
Indy's response is, look, I said nothing that wasn't said. You know, but that's what snitching is.
Yeah,
that's what snitching is, okay, Indian. That's what a recorder does. Like, that is betrayal. when you say nothing more or nothing less, but you say what was said.
Yeah.
The whole point of the game is subterfuge, secrecy, and how can you be so naive?
And also, she ends every argument with like, "Okay, the end. That's it." You know,
So frustrating.
like argument cut short. You know, and
Like
it's
their mother. They just ends it. We're not talking about this anymore.
I know.
You're getting in the car. We're going home. Very
Yeah.
condescending. Very passive aggressive. She did herself no favors. I thought she played a really bad game in this episode. My gosh.
I think it's also funny because I think in her bio she says she's kind of like manages people. You know, she's very good at communications. You know, and it's funny because like what you do for a job is actually very different as to like how it actually is in real life.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure she can actually communicate ideas very well to her clients, you know, to her staff.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You know, but
I'm
when
sure
it
she
actually
can
comes
write.
to...
I'm sure she can write a killer CC email. I'm sure she can deliver a kick-ass PowerPoint. But when it comes to actual social situations where you strip away work environments, hierarchy, pay, age, you strip away all that, right? And you're on an island. You're equal to me. We're the same. You're not a multimillionaire here. I'm not a bus driver. You're not a cleaner. I'm not a CEO. We're all equal. It really is fascinating to see how people cope with that regression to the mean.
I think so.
I think she struggled to
She
cope
struggled.
with
And I
being
feel like that's
equal.
why... I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, yeah.
I feel like that's why Kent struggles
Yeah.
as well. Because probably in his life, he's like so rich. He's probably used to having people kowtowing to him, you know, and saying, yes, Kent, yes, Kent. You know, I think that's also why he's like very critical in the beginning when he's like criticizing about, I think the first challenge where they had to like throw something.
Yeah,
I think he was just outright being quite critical. And maybe like,
I think he blamed Max. He said Max stuffed it up.
yeah, he used to like having staff who's just like, you know, at his like beck and call, like, you know, doing everything he wants, you know, but on Survivor, you know, you can't do that.
It's interesting because he wears the most jewelry too on the island. Did you notice he was wearing a bunch of bangles
Yeah. He's wearing a blazer.
and a blazer? Like, it's interesting the things that you choose to bring on Survivor, the trappings of society, because it shows the kind of person you are. That even on an island, how insecure you are, that you want to show out, that you want to show that you're wealthy, that you have bling, that you want to stand out even amongst equals, that you want to look good. Even that's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's very revealing about personality, I find, because men don't often tend to wear jewelry, especially in Australia. Yeah, back to Indy. Tough game. I don't even know where to start, where she went wrong. I think she wanted to move the pieces around without building any social capital, as I said, without building the relationships. I think Rich even said it, we're here on day 5 and you haven't built any relationships. Maybe you have a problem with authority.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, to be honest, she does come across as like quite authoritative, and I think it can rub people the wrong way.
Yeah. Tough time. She didn't come across well. So Indy goes home. And the coven goes another night. Okay, final ep. We're just gonna strut through this very quickly. So we open with the coven of the witches having a cleansing ritual, and we see Ali sort of not with it, playing along but not playing along in this kumbaya.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if that's foreshadowing as to someone that's not going to really cooperate with the plan. Let's talk about the challenge.
So the tackling one?
The tackling one. We're just going to briefly talk about the challenge. So basically, Brawn destroys Brain.
Yeah, so I think it's like pretty much the first... I'm not going to say it's the first time because I don't know. I haven't seen every season. But yeah, they went like, you know, it's the best out of 5. Pretty much Brawn destroyed Brains.
It was a really unfair challenge if you think about it. Because normally with the challenges, you have an element of Brain having something to fight with. Like, okay, we're going to tackle, but then there's a shooting competition afterwards, a bit of skill. This was just pure physical strength versus strength.
Yeah.
And the most visually memorable sight was Noonan just flattening Karen, this poor girl. That was like a buffalo trampling a mongoose. That was horrible to watch. That was tough to watch.
It was. I mean, to be honest, I think Karen actually did an amazing job. I thought she would just like fall down and be done, but she actually I think she was able to. I don't know what.
She put a jujitsu hold.
Got her legs around Noonan's neck. Tried to hold her down. Like she held firm, and she's like quite a bit smaller than Noonan.
Yeah, but Brawn wins challenge. They go to reward. They get loaded fries. Yeah. And what do you know? Paulie, who hasn't been featured yet, gets a golden map underneath the chips. He then walks around, gets the idol, but only reveals a half truth to Noonan, who susses him out straight away. Because Noonan's like, I thought you might have gone for a walk. Because you found something. Yeah. What do you think of this play? Not telling Noonan. Or telling Noonan a half-truth that he found the map but not the idol.
I think he has to. To be honest, he probably didn't want to tell her. He wanted to keep it for himself. But I think when you are asked, I don't think you can lie about it, because I think people can tell when you're lying, firstly. And then that just builds distrust. So I think he did the next best thing. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a compromise between like what he wants and what he has to do.
Yeah, I think so. I think he got caught in an awkward situation and had to make the best of it. Paulie, by the way, is a medic, but they show him with ambulance lights behind him like a strip club. It's such a strange look.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say something about Noonan, and maybe it's not popular, but I don't know. The way that she kind of like says things, it can come across as a little bit sarcastic or condescending.
Okay.
You know, like, I think sometimes, you know, when she makes like remarks about like Nash, you know, like Nash the rash, you know, the way she kind of like says, there's kind of like an undertone. She doesn't say things very frankly.
Yeah, right.
You know, like she says things like kind of like, oh, you know.
She's done it a few times. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
know?
When she, at Tribal, she said, you know, some people like it, some people don't. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
She suggests and then backs off, but, you know, a little bit snide.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like a passive-aggressive, that's how I feel, like, you know, passive-aggressive, like, you know, like tone coming into it.
Well, she has 3 brothers. Maybe that plays into it, you know.
Maybe that's how she has to, like, you know, she has to, like, navigate.
Bros,
yeah, I think so,
and a father and all that. So, yeah, Paulie, the paramedic, other news from the challenge, some sad news. Zen, stay stoic, my brother. He broke his wrist, I think, or his finger in the challenge. And then we find out the next day on the mat that he has to get removed from the game.
Yeah, that's really sad, to be honest. I think he was actually coming up to be quite the character. You know, he's funny, he's fit, you know, he's actually seems quite nice.
Yeah, I'm going to miss him. I think he was a real character. He was so funny, even though sometimes unintentionally. But he brought a bit of cool to the show as well. He's different. A rapper / I think he's in sales. The show's going to miss him. I'm bummed out for him. You can see how heartbreaking it was for him.
Yeah, I think he was like genuinely very well liked, like even among the opposite tribe, you know. And I do hope that, you know, in the future we do see more of him, because I think he actually could become a big star out of Survivor.
I think he could be re-invited to the show because of how he left.
Yeah.
And definitely suits TV. We'll probably see him on The Bachelor or or Maths or something like that. He's definitely got the looks and to go far. So sad to see Zen go like this. Stay stoic, brother. Stay stoic. My perspicacious, sublime acumen friend. Cool guy. Oh, and so we see more challenges. We're not going to talk too much about challenges because they're a bit meh. But AJ tries to stir some drama up on his tribe. Everyone is voting for Kent, but he wants to go for Logan, which it turns out to be a bit of a nothing burger.
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Yeah. I don't feel like we need to talk very much about that.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, he tries, but it fails. And in the end, it is Kent that goes home. What did we think of Kent's game?
Well, it's a short game.
Talked about.
It's a short game, and I think we've pretty much, it is what it is. I think
he went out with a blaze of glory.
He did. Probably a lot shorter than he expected it to be. I don't know if he's maybe made himself very popular in the real world, like after his gameplay. So
yeah, I think it's interesting that the first few people to go, other than Candy, it's the people that didn't quite
They didn't quite fit in socially.
Yeah, socially. And I think Nash might have gone home had he not got the idol. So really we're looking at Indy, Kent and Nash.
Well, to be honest, do you think like if he had not gotten the idol, maybe people might not have gone for him? Yeah. Because I feel like, you know, he had gotten the immediate idol so early, so brazenly, and then just flaunted it. You know, it just put such a big target on him. But if he actually hadn't gotten anything, you know, that maybe might not have been that twist, you know?
Yeah, true. Yeah,
you know, because maybe then he's not like sitting on the sand like it's a throne and like telling people what to do, which just like, you know, can put off people.
Yeah.
He might actually have had to learn to be a bit nicer and more agreeable, you know, and maybe that actually would have actually maybe worked in his favor.
Yeah, true. I was surprised with that first vote, to be honest. I wasn't surprised to see Indy go home. I wasn't surprised to see Kent go home. But I was surprised to see Candy go home and not, say, Ursula from the split. And the reason why it didn't go that way was essentially because Kate and Morgan voted with Nash.
Yeah.
And I'm very surprised that they chose to align with Nash because, yeah, he doesn't seem the most appealing leader. And he really pitches himself as a leader.
Yeah, he doesn't pitch well. I don't think he like actually even asked people like what their thoughts are. It's just, oh, hey, do this with me. I've got you covered. You know, it's a very superficial, I think, pitch.
What do we think of Kate and Morgan aligning with Nash, though? Were you surprised to see that?
I was surprised to see that. They kind of remind me of the Valerie and Viola duo from like a previous season.
With George, for example.
Yeah, and they're kind of like the, you know, like the bestie couple, and then they move according to how they want to move, which I feel like it's a lot more fluid and more solid than like, say, a big all-girls coven. Yeah, so I feel like maybe that's the way to actually move forward because, like, you know, you actually have someone who like more... Yeah, that's swing vote, yeah.
They're the swing vote on
so they can kind of like move anywhere they want until time when one of them will get picked off.
Yeah, true.
You know, but that won't be until like maybe
I think they're in a very good position, actually, because you always want to be the swing vote with both sides pitching for your services. They're in that position. They're also good at challenges. They seem to be good socially.
Yeah, I think
they're attractive. So. They're young.
Yeah.
So people are always going to be drawn to them.
I mean Morgan. She's like an Olympic sprinter. You know, she looks Olympian. Very, very like. I mean, you know, she could be like the next like challenge beast next to Ben.
Yeah. So I think what they're doing is they're following this play, like with the V's did with George. They find a very strong, Nash isn't strong, but very outspoken character who's going to draw attention.
Yeah, use them as a shield.
They use them as a shield. They use them to break the wall socially, let them, you know, make a mess of things, and they just come in behind, gather votes, see where it lies, and then can survey the damage.
Yeah, and see, like, you know, and I think it's always also as well, because it's just the two of them, it's a lot more nimble.
Yes.
You know, you can kind of like see, hey, which group works in our direction, you know, serves our purpose, and then let's just go there. Yeah.
Okay. Week 1, who else did you like from week 1?
At the moment, I think Ben is coming up to be very, very good at challenges. I'm very impressed by the way he throws.
Oh, he's one of the most impressive throwers in this game that we've seen in a long time, since Matt Rogers. He's such a good physical competitor.
Well, for someone who actually doesn't do it professionally.
Yeah. He's carried them through the challenges. He nailed like 3 sandbags in a row in that challenge. Great strength to that team. He's going to stay around for a while, I think, because he's such a strong asset to have on that tribe.
Yeah. I think for me, I haven't actually, to be honest, they haven't actually featured that many people.
Like, who's PD? They have... I'm like, sorry, you know, PD, but they haven't featured you at all.
There's like Kristen, I think that I haven't seen or heard of yet.
Kristen?
I know. So there's been actually Zara. She's kind of like in the All Girl Alliance. I think the thing that I am kind of like looking forward to is I would be keen to see who's going to break the All Girl Alliance first, because I feel like that's not going to last.
Yeah.
I
think Ali.
Yeah. Too many queen bees in one pot.
For me, I think it's Ali.
Okay.
I think the fact that she didn't join hands at the well and just chose to eat coconut is a bit of foreshadowing. You know, why would the editors include that if it isn't a bit of foreshadowing? And the other person that stood out to me was, as a deft player, was Kalen. He seems to be blending in socially. He's not trying too hard, too early. Whereas players like AJ, Rich, they seem to be ruffling a few feathers.
I think so.
I think they're going to go home soon.
And I feel like with AJ, I mean, I know he's like a professional poker player, but that just means that maybe you're very good at like hiding your cards, but socially, you
spend a lot of time online. And
and alone,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like being a professional video game player. It doesn't necessarily translate to the real world.
Yeah,
just because you're good at some things doesn't mean you're great at others. So, thank you for joining us this week. We tried to cover it all. It was a bit confusing for us at times. I hope it was okay for you guys, but
I think we do our best, and we do really appreciate you checking out our podcast. And again, this is like the first 3 episodes, so we're very excited to see what's happening in the 4th. And don't forget, we have a traders like wrap up coming soon as well.
Yeah, we'll try and get that up in the next day or 2, but we'll see how we go. These things take a little bit of time to prep, so we'll try to.
Yeah, and so guys, this is a wrap up then? Okay, so thank you so much for listening to the show. This is the Recreate Reality Podcast by Michael and Teresa. You can find us on Recreate on TikTok and Instagram. That's WRECKCREATE, where you can watch funny short clips of what we've talked about. If you like what you hear, be sure to like and subscribe to our pod. It really helps us a big deal, and we are currently extremely grateful for any support you give. We'll be back shortly with Survivor Australia and Traders, so stay tuned.
See you.